Our next slide demonstrates how pointer, once again, can be used as a function argument. So let's just copy and paste this example and put it inside our source file. And here, just since the times back when this sample was written, the C++ standard now requires that we use constant specifier whenever we try to create a pointer pointing to a string of characters, a literal string of characters. Likewise, over here, we also need to do the same thing. So it seems like more syntax, but it's actually very good syntax because it allows us to create a safer program. So anyways, this does demonstrate that we can create pointer and phello here, when it's declared, is a pointer to a constant character, which means that it's pointing to this first character, and constance of it means that it's a read-only character. And remember, every string like this is read-only. And when we call our function print, we call it twice over here, and once we pass a pointer to it to initialize this pointer, and the second time we pass another literal string as a parameter. And of course, what this message parameter will get when we call it the second time, it will get the address of the W, uppercase W character the second time. Notice that cout, when we give it our message, cout is programmed in its formatted input that whenever it sees a pointer to a character, it will print that character, and it will not stop printing until it will find the zero terminating character at the end of the sequence of characters. Of course, this is simply a convention for cout that it uses, expecting that every time you pass it a pointer to a character, most likely this is a sequence of characters likely to be something that was initially allocated as a literal string. So pointers and arrays are closely related. So let's consider this syntax right here. Again, I'll just copy and paste this sample into our code. Just like this. And of course, I will have to apply the constant modifier to this declaration. So here we have a pointer to a literal string of characters, which actually is pointing to the first character and remembers the address of the first character. In the second situation, we're declaring an array of characters. So once again, remember when we need to vocalize a declaration of a variable, we have to start with its name, and then if there's anything present on the right hand side, we need to say it first. So we say array ARR is an array of characters initialized by this literal string. So let's just go back to this demonstration right here. A literal string here, hello, or rather on this line right over here, naturally is allocating this character HELLO and the zero terminating character. And this string literal is used as an initializer of the individual elements of this array. So every array is zero based, so the initial element of an array will store first character, the second element will store the next character, and so forth. And the last element of an array will actually store the zero terminating character. So this is how this array can be initialized by hello. why would you need an array? Well, because then once initialized, this array then becomes an array of elements which are now modifiable. In other words, this array of characters we can, once initialized, we can use to change our characters any way we like. Right? So we can modify these characters to make them uppercase, lowercase. We can basically change them entirely if we'd like to. Also notice that if you use size of operator and apply it to the name of an array, when it was first declared, it will return the size of array in bytes. Of course, our array is an array of characters, so if the character size is a byte size, then obviously size of this array will return the value of 6. Another interesting application of using arrays is that we can actually construct arrays of pointers. So for instance, right here we have an array named months. So months is an array of this time pointers to characters. So we initialize this array by using these string literals, using the array initializer syntax and using a sequence of string literals which correspond to the names of the month. Apparently in our application we'd like to have January as month number 1, so we kind of skip the 0 month and say that the 0 would be an illegal month. But if you think about this statement right here, well, what happens first, that every string literal is allocated sequentially somewhere in memory. And of course, when it gets allocated, when each single one of these string literals is allocated, a 0 terminating character is appended to the tail of these strings. So here we go. You can see these zeros at the tail of every literal string. Now, each first character of these string literals will have its own unique memory address. And this will be the array of memory addresses that will be used to initialize this array of pointers to characters. So basically, the 0th element or the initial element of this array will have, right, will physically be pointing to location of this character in memory, which happens to be, in this example, this hexadecimal number. And then the second element of this array will be pointing to this character in memory, and so forth. And so this array is basically capturing addresses of first characters in these literal strings. And that's all we need to be able to use this array to use individual elements right there and be able to send these addresses, for instance, to a cout, or use it elsewhere to be able to manipulate those strings. Okay, so now we have this example right here, which is pretty simple, same type of code. Let's just verify that it actually compiles and runs without any problems, just to be sure. Right, so this is the code. I will just simply go ahead and build it. Okay, and I'm getting some errors. And once again, it tells me that what you're trying to do is that you're trying to construct an array of pointers to characters, but your characters are constant. So what needs to happen is that I need to add const in my declaration. This is something that I definitely wanted to verify. So let's just build again, and this time is correct. So in earlier versions of C++, this was allowed because of the compatibility with the C programming language, which would allow something like this in its very long history of C programming. But for us, using today's standard in C++, we have to obey the rules that these characters are indeed read-only, and read-only looks like this in the code. So once again, months is an array of pointers to constant characters, initialized with this initializer list of string literals, which reserving these characters in read-only memory. And then if we'd like, we can take individual elements of this array and send them to cout to be able to print these values. So let's actually do this. Right, so I build and I run, and this my program executes right here. You can see that the result of these outputs is displayed right here. So I'm printing the names of my months, an array that initialized with January, February, March, and the 0 element is just printing illegal.